What do puzzles have to do with there being no videos on my channel lately? And what do puzzles have to do with me being able to have a traumatic brain injury and be out here on the road? Well, stay tuned. The majority of this film that you're about to see was filmed actually in June just outside Sisters, Oregon. We were camped in a place that was just recently opened up to the public after there had been a major forest fire, and they felt like the recovery was enough to allow camping up there again. So that's why all of the trees that you see look like they do. Currently, I'm camped in Colorado in the middle of nowhere, and so that's why you see two different scenes on this video. Okay, so what's the deal with puzzles? Well, first I'm going to show you and demonstrate using them how or why it's taken me so long to get videos back up on my channel. I know that videos come and go on my channel faster than ice at a summer picnic, but changes are afoot and you just need to stay tuned and bear with me. For now, just know that I will be putting up at least one video a week. So let's find out what puzzles have to do with the absences of videos on my channel. So the reason is I'm going to explain it with these puzzles, and y'all bear with me, but it turns out that it wasn't just as easy as learning my new Mac Air, which really was easy. I was so grateful for YouTube tutorials. I was able to learn that fairly quickly. But it turns out that I had pictures and clips on my Asus. I had pictures and clips on old backup drives and flash drives from my Asus. And I not only had things on my phone now and my new Mac Air, there was something in the cloud. And I am having to get all of those put into one place to be able to make videos, and I'm finally caught up, and you get to see this one today. Okay, trust me, there's probably a lot more to it than that, and at least I'm finally able to start sharing videos on my channel again. This first one that I really want to share with you is how I cope with my TBI. I do my best to take these puzzles and share with you what goes on in my brain. I know. It's a scary thought. I hope after watching this that you have a better understanding of my TBI. Every single traumatic brain injury is different. But I hope at least you will understand better what I deal with and how I thrive. Please stay tuned until after my show and tell so that I can share with you an update and a huge surprise about my TBI, my traumatic brain injury, and give you a health update. Honestly, this one wasn't an easy video for me to shoot and share with you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching this video. I'm sharing it so that hopefully people can better understand traumatic brain injuries, and again, at least mine, and how I'm sure others work, and what it's like for me to be out here on the road dealing with it. All right, everybody, so here's the deal. Here's my brain. I suspect that parts of what I'm going to say can be true. Indiana's a big sponge piece of the puzzle. I suspect what I'm going to say can be true for a lot of people, but I can only address it from a TBI perspective. And I came up with this after my friend Sue and I went and bought these puzzles for the prop on my last video. And when I got these puzzles, I realized this is a perfect way to tell everybody how I thrive as a TBI survivor. And I like the word TBI thriver better than TBI survivor. I wish they would change it across the board in all organizations, but I get that they might not. So, the number one tool that I have is I do things by a 3 count. On a good day, when I'm firing on all pistons cognitively, I can get by with a 4 count or a 5 count. Those days are very rare. So I do things by a 3 count. 1, 2, 3. This might be take my meds, get dressed, put a video up. When I finish that, I go to my next 3 count. That might be answer emails, reply to text, I don't know, eat, because I forgot that in there. And that happens. But this 3 count is no longer on the table. It's just this 3. I can't combine them. I can't think about the next 3. It can't be present. This is all I can do. Now let's back up. So one of these over here was get dressed. Obviously there's a lot involved in getting dressed. You know, pick your clothes out. Put your clothes on. Pick out accessories. Put your shoes on. Maybe your socks before your shoes. Jewelry. Put up your pajamas. Put your old clothes in the dirty clothes. All of that. And if you throw in makeup, you've got that. So just getting dressed can be all of this. And remember, that was part of a 3 count, right? So we've got these other 2 floating around up here. All of this, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I timed myself twice now putting on jewelry. So that was just one of these pieces of this 1 count. Putting on jewelry, I timed it the first time, and because I have to put up the jewelry I had on the night before, figure out what I'm wearing for that day, pick out jewelry, put it on, I timed it, and it was 18 frickin' minutes. I figured I had done something wrong on my timer. That's just one of the pieces of my 1 count of 3. So I did it the next time I'd put a timer on, and it was 15 minutes. So this 1 count may not look like much, but when you have a traumatic brain injury, it can get overwhelming. I'll give you another example. I threw out putting on socks as part of it. This is why routine is so important to TBI thrivers, and I'm sure anybody else with a cognitive disorder. Again, I am only addressing what I know, which is from my brain injury. It is why nursing homes, rehab facilities, assisted care, and specialty units like TBI units work so well. They provide that consistency for us. Socks, a very simple little thing you would think. But I've gotten to where I used to have a routine where I laid my shoes and socks out. I did all this the night before. Okay, I can't remember to do it half the time. And the other half of the time when I wake up the next morning, I can't remember if that's clothes I wore the day before. Sometimes I even have to go look at my phone to see. And when it comes down to socks, I especially can't remember. And so I end up throwing the ones that are out in the dirty clothes anyway and getting another pair out. I've gone through socks pretty quickly doing that. So I hope you get that a 1 count for me might not be just one thing. And getting ready usually takes me 2 hours because of all of this. Okay, so that's 1 count. Another count was take meds. I'm happy to say that I finally have that down to a fine art. It's all in one bag. I've got a system down, but that's another reason that having my van in order and having things simple is so important. When things get out of order, get out of place, it makes keeping track of my count and what I need to do almost impossible. But let's throw in some other factors. Somebody drops by and wants to talk to me. I go outside to do something. Somebody comes up and they're talking to me. I remember that I need to go outside. Oh, here's a good one. It's getting hot in the van, so I have to put screens up. I have to get the screens out. I have to bungee the door. I have to put the magnets up. And then I have to make sure my curtains, if I'm not completely dressed, are in place. Then I have to remember where I was on my count. Most of the time, I can't. That's why some days my meds don't get taken because I got interrupted in there. And that happens to me all day long. So when people say, oh yeah, I have brain burps too, or oh yeah, I forget if, what I wore the day before, Or I forgot to take my vitamins and meds this morning too. It is not the same. This is true for me on my 3 count every waking moment of every waking day. And I know that everybody is probably going to write in, and I appreciate you giving me suggestions on things I can do, like make notes, get a better routine, don't allow the interruptions. I want you to know that I consider myself your source on TBI. If you have questions, please ask me. I can probably answer them. I've been dealing with this brain injury for a very, very long time, 20 years as a matter of fact, from day 1 of the injury, fast forward 10 years beyond that, and my brain surgery to my current diagnosis, which is hippocampal sclerosis. I have scar tissue building up. In that, I have seen tons of doctors. I've gone through TBI rehab. I'm a member of several TBI forums online. I know what works for me and what doesn't. Notes don't work. Notes are things I have to write, things I have to read, things I have to change out, things I have to update. It just adds to the clutter. It doesn't work for me. I was doing a bullet journal for a while, but what has happened on that is things got chaotic for me. Right now my van is a mess because things got out of order. It all needs to be put up. And the truth is, all I did was buy 4 things that don't fit in my pantry. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I bought a basket to put them in. And all of a sudden, my van is messed up. I go do laundry. And oh Lord, don't get me started on the steps that are involved in doing laundry for a brain injury. I no longer have the luxury or the liberty of just doing things by rote. In other words, just doing them automatically. I have to think about every little step of every little thing. And I don't have my laundry put up from doing laundry the other day because I've been busy doing my 3 counts. And so my van is a mess. And so my life right now feels like that. And when I'm like that, nothing gets done. I don't get to stay in touch with people. I don't get to keep my bullet journal up to date. I don't get to do the things that I normally do, including, not to mention, videos or writing or anything. So I think you guys get the idea of how interruptions and what it looks like for my brain and what I do on my 3 count. So how does my brain work and allow me to do the things I do? I have to take it in very short baby steps. And if I get interrupted, it just doesn't happen. Here are some of my symptoms. I am very grateful that I can write. I can drive. And before anybody writes in about that, I had to go through testing through doctors in the state of Texas and special driver's exams. And I was released by the state of Texas and neurosurgeons. And so unless you are a neurosurgeon or work for the Department of Transportation and can look at my files and have an exception with something, you don't get to question my ability to drive. I'm good. But what I can't do is remember how to get to point A to point B. So technology saves my life out here. It allows me to be independent. I use Google Maps. I can use benchmarks ahead of time to have an overview. There's a lot of things that I get to do through technology that allows me to stay independent, and I'm very grateful for that. What I can't do anymore is I can't do math, and I was a science teacher. I can't read. I can't do, what are they called, audiobooks, because something about reading and something about audio, even people talking or listening to music, something else I've lost. Used to be a huge part of my life. Most of my friends were musicians. I went to concerts all the time. I sat in on their jam sessions. I went to their recording of their new albums. Anything audio like that I can't do anymore, which includes staying in touch with friends because I can't do phone calls like I used to do. So all of these things I can't do anymore. Oh, I can't go to restaurants like I used to, even though now I have a tool. I'm going to put this up here with the technology. My earmuffs, my giant Princess Leia earmuffs, that allows me to do some things that I couldn't do, but it depends on whether I'm overloaded or not. So sometimes, I'm going to give you one more example and then I'm going to close. I have a question for somebody and I ask them a question. I'm listening for the answer to that question because I have to be able to connect the dots. Okay? Question, answer. My brain, in between normal human conversation, it does this. And in all of that, I'm still listening for the answer. And by the time maybe they answer or we get around to it because we've just done this normal conversation, I don't even remember that I asked a question. Or they answer me and I have to ask, what are we talking about? What was the question? That is constant in my life. I get that happens with everybody. I know that everybody, and I used to say, what were we talking about? Or what was my question? This is constant for me. I get no rest, no relaxation, no peace from it from the time I open my eyes until I go to sleep. At night, if it's been a hectic day, trying to turn all of this off and go to sleep is sometimes impossible. And that's where my doctor has given me some medicine to help me sleep. I use that pill so far, it turns out maybe a dozen times a year. But and that's another thing I guess I didn't throw in there. My doctors, my tribe, my trustee. I need to throw that in there. The federal government wouldn't give me my disability, okay? After I went to neurosurgeons and everything for their testing to their doctors, they're like, yeah, we're not giving you any money. They declared me incompetent to handle my own affairs. And so I have a trustee, and his name is David, and before him it was Leslie, and I am grateful to both of them. All of that keeps me independent out here. So I don't know if this makes any sense or not, because from the time I started to now, I can't remember what I've told you and what I haven't. That's part of that. But the thing I want to end with, and I hope this helps people understand, is that this will be like a little Red Riding Hood going on a walk. Maybe that's not a good example. I want it to have a better ending than that. But along the way, step 1, step 2, step 3. If my dots get disconnected in between there, if I get interrupted too many times, or if something just doesn't make sense, the dots start going away. That happens too many times, and I lose track of time. I can't tell you how many times I've wondered, how long have I been sitting here? It's like the lights are on and nobody's home. And it's because that it got disconnected somewhere along the way. My neural networks are no longer firing. And that's probably because of my scar tissue. And that reminds me of the last thing I want to close with, is every brain injury is different. I suppose that's true for a lot of disabilities, but for brain injuries it is especially different. We all have different diagnoses within the brain injuries. I know that mine is beginning to mirror autism, and they've done clinical studies on that you just get kind of these sub-diagnoses. And I've developed a hand tremor. I could go on and on with my list of the sub things that have come into play in my life because of the brain injury. But as long as I can do my 3 count, and as long as I can connect the dots, and as long as I can depend on technology and my friends and my tribe and my trustee, and Kathy that helps me with my budget every month, I can stay independent. And there are days when that feels like I want to give up and I want to go ahead and just go to assisted living because I can't. Trying to find out of all of this my 3 steps, what's next, some days is impossible. So on my channel, people have asked, why don't you just give up your channel? Why don't you just write? Why don't you just do this? You know, and it's kind of a, my late friend Fred and Colvin and Bryce, we all used to have a joke among us. You know, everybody always wants to say you should, and anytime you start with a sentence that says you should, you probably ought to stop because you're on the wrong track. And see, and I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, giving up my channel and just writing or something. And I haven't been able to write in such a long time because my life has been like this. I don't even know if I still have that capability. I sure hope so, because I got lots of stories I want to tell. But that's what my channel is for me. I used to do scrapbooking. I had a scrapbook room actually in my Sticks and Bricks home that was featured in Archivers magazine. It was amazing, and my friends would come over once a month and we'd stay up all night and scrapbook. And then I went to digital scrapbooking, and now my videos, my YouTube channel is my diary, my digital diary, my journal. It is how I capture my life and my moments. It's how I keep a voice, because I will be honest with you, my traumatic brain injury would love it if I just went silent and I quit trying to pick out the pieces out of this and I just gave up. And I refuse to give in. And the other thing that is in the back of my mind is that, you know that movie, The Notebook? One day, maybe my YouTube channel for me will be my notebook. I can go back and look at it, and I can remember all of you wonderful people and the love and the beauty I have in life. I'm out here in nature. Pieces are blowing away. That also happens. Something comes along, like unexpected, and zip, all of the pieces are no longer connected. That connect the dot is gone, and I'm out of the race for the day. But I'm hoping that one day my channel, if it comes to that, will serve as my memory and will keep me connected. So don't tell me, please, to cut back. Don't tell me what, you know, to take it easy, to do less, so that my life doesn't feel like this. If I can pick out my 3 steps and keep the dots in between connected, that's the life I want, and that's the life I need right now. So I hope this helps you understand how I'm able to do what I do and what it's like to, in my brain anyway, to be a TBI thriver. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And again, please, before you give unsolicited advice, please remember that I consider myself a TBI authority to be your source. I'm happy to answer questions. And if you have a question of why something, I haven't tried something, or would something work, please phrase it in the form of a question and I'll tell you. But unless you're a neurosurgeon or my Dr. Lori or somebody that is watching this and has professional advice, I'm your TBI source. And with that, I think I'll close. Okay, so there you go. In these clips, I mentioned the movie The Notebook. And I think nowadays, my life more has paralleled. Have you ever seen that movie, The Awakening? It starred Robin Williams. And it was just an amazing medical breakthrough that, and based on real life, that a doctor was able to do to wake this entire ward of patients up. And I feel like that is what has happened to me. Remember that those clips were taped in June, and I have to be honest with you that I went from really bad to worse. There were days I would just sit and stare. I couldn't put thoughts together. I just sat. I went from the lights being on but nobody's home to the lights weren't even on and nobody was home. My hand tremors even got worse. Sometimes I had to hold a cup with 2 hands to be able to drink, and it was sporadic and there was no controlling it. And my eye was always at least partially drooped, and I don't know how to explain it because it swells and it kind of shuts, and this is where most of my frontal area damage was done. It was across this whole side. Well, it was my whole head actually, but I still have bone fragments here on this side of my head. And so my eye was getting to where it wouldn't even open ever, and now it rarely droops. Honestly, I was slipping away, and it was horrifyingly scary. But like I said, my eye rarely droops now. My hand trimmers are gone. I can't remember. It's been weeks since I've had even a single hand trimmer, let alone have to try to control the trimmers and function. And I can edit videos again. Well, obviously, right? But the truth is, I had gotten to the point where I couldn't even create any files on my computer. I couldn't even manage or use the apps, or a lot of the apps on my smartphone that just a few months before I was able to manage just fine. And I used to teach those classes at the community center. It was so frustrating, you guys. I used to be responsible in my career for million-dollar budgets, and I could not even create a spreadsheet, open it, and do anything with it on my computer anymore. Now I've been given my life back. I can do all of that again and more, and I'm about to share with you why. The other day, I even listened to music. It was only 5 songs and at a very low volume, but what a miraculous and magical moment that was for me. I'm going to give you a couple of more examples of what life had gotten to be like for me, because I think it's important for you to understand the difference, just night and day. Okay, so I would be inside the van and I would think, oh, I've got to go do something outside. And I would step outside and realize I didn't remember what it was. And that would be true just going from the back of the van to the front of the van for something almost, well, a dozen times a day. And so I would step outside and I would go, what am I here for? And I know everybody does that. We've all walked into a room and so and gone, why did I come in here for? And so one of the tricks is to retrace your steps. So I'd go back inside, but the thing is, I'd go back inside and just go about my whatever came up next for me. I wouldn't even remember that I was trying to remember something. And I would repeat actions like that infinitum, and I may or may not ever remember. And then one day it'd be like, well, I thought I was going to do that the other day, but I couldn't remember what had happened or anything. That was my day all day long. It had gotten really bad. In fact, making our videos on To Meander, Robert would create these 2 to 3 page outlines, and they were just wonderful and bullet points. And he would have to feed me my parts one line at a time, and then have to go do 1,000 edits, because that's all I could remember. He would tell me my line, I would say it, and then we'd go on to the next. He'd tell me my line and I would say it. If it was 1 or 2 sentences, I might be okay. If I had 3 sentences to do, there usually had to be a break in there. You guys, I just cannot tell you, and I stuttered all the time. People would call me and try to talk to me, and I stuttered. I just wasn't, I was slow and methodical in speech. And so to be able to share this video with you is just a huge celebration. Lori McKinsey, the best practitioner I've ever known, put me on Aricept. Aricept is normally for dementia and Alzheimer's patients, but more and more it's being given to TBI patients. And again, not everyone. Every traumatic brain injury is different, but look what it has done for me. All of the things that I shared with you in the puzzle video in the show and tell still apply. I still have to do a 3 count. I still have to keep the dots connected, and I have to have everything in order, almost to the point nothing can get out of place. But that is what I was like before the decline began about a year ago, and I got to where I was not able to function. So I really truly have been given my life back. I know I keep saying that, but I just want to share it with you guys, and I couldn't wait to get this video up. So that's my big surprise. I'm on Aricept. I was a little bit not skeptical, because if Lori recommended it recommended it, I was willing to try it. And I had been on it before, shortly after my brain injury, and it helped. But then I got on the road, and first one thing then another happened, and I was doing so well. And then this decline began, and I just really didn't want, I felt like I was going backwards, taking a medicine that is meant for dementia and Alzheimer's, and I had been doing so well until the decline began about a year ago. But it has given me my life back. My home state is now in Nevada, and so I already have a primary care lined up there, which means I will miss you, Dr. Lori and Shauna, and those of you at Camel Country Clinic. Thank you again for this, what I consider a miracle. And I will be seeing specialists in Las Vegas. I'll get referrals for that later this year or early spring. Right now, in this moment, life is really, really good, and I have never felt more blessed. So Coco, everyone, keep on keeping on, because you never know what tomorrow might bring. I'll see you down the road, everybody. Thank you for being here on my channel. I love you. Bye-bye. Okay, what's the deal with puzzles? Well, first I showed... Now, let's throw in some other factors. Oops, not my scarf though. The wind is really blowing, and it just blew dust across here, so I hope I can finish this video for you. If you've ever seen the movie The Awakening with the late great Wobbin, I can't say it, so I'm gonna cut that out.